Aric, Thyra, and a new ally fly into the heart of the lion's den when a new weapon is unveiled by Ursus Nox to obliterate everyone in sight. We're going to talk about it right here in our review of XO Manowar Invictus number 2 from Valiant Entertainment. See you in 3. Welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of XO Manowar Invictus number 2. Before we get started, let's take less than 60 seconds to dig into what happened in the previous issue. Aric was busy training a bunch of refugees that he had rescued from the Romanus Empire on a desolate, sort of icy planet called Scythia. He was fully intending that once he trained them enough to help them survive on their own, he was going to fly off and begin attacking the Romanus Empire again. Thyra was trying to dissuade him, saying, look, it's a suicide mission if you do that. Just stay here, stay with the refugees, live a quiet life. You've earned your rest. Don't do this. And he said, nope, Romanus Empire has got to go, and I'm not going to stop until it's done. Meanwhile, his armor was starting to act a little wonky, that like somehow it had been disconnected from Shanhara, which we'll later find out is truly the case. As he's flying around, he suddenly receives a signal saying something is approaching orbit. He's like, oh, the Romanus Empire has found us. We better go find out what it is. He and Thyra fly up to orbit, and they encounter a ship that belongs to somebody whose voice sounds very familiar. That brings us to XO Manowar Invictus number 2. The ship that came into orbit lands. The gentleman whose voice is very familiar takes his helmet off, and we find out it is Dalgan Pith, who is a former Vine soldier and now scavenger and pirate, and former, at least they knew each other, associate of Aric. He explains that he's been living life as a scavenger, just going around to different battle sites where the Roman Empire has come through and destroyed ships and colonies and whatever else they can find. And he's been picking through the carcass, trying to make a meager living, but he still holds a grudge against the Roman Empire for destroying the Vine. And now he has come to join Aric in his fight. We briefly cut over to Volturnus, which is the capital planet of the Romanus Empire, and when the Golden Three, which are these sort of magical mystics, have completed the ritual to separate Shanhara from Manowar, and she is now encased in this sort of large purpley crystal. And now she is a slave to Ursus Nox. He says, now you're mine, you're separated from the armor, and you're going to do what I say. And she taunts him a little bit and says, well, Aric's going to come for me. He's not going to just leave me here. And when he comes for me, you better watch out, brother, because he's going to come for you too. We cut back to Scythia, and Aric says, well, you're here, Pith. Let's get going, and we're going to make some mess out of the Romanus Empire. Thyra, despite her misgivings, comes along and said, okay, if we're going to do this, let's do this. So they fly off, and they look for any kind of Romanus ships, any kind of convoys, any kind of attack squads, whatever they can find, and they do find them. They find a small convoy of ships. Aric and Thyra leave Pith's scout vessel or pirate vessel and launch on the attack, and then start destroying everything that they can get their hands on. Meanwhile, Shanhara is still silent from Aric's urging. He still thinks something wrong, and he keeps urging her to talk to him, to reconnect with him, but suddenly he starts to hear a voice. And the voice does not sound like Shanhara, and that voice is telling him to go crazy and destroy everything in his path. Meanwhile, the commanders of the Romanus ships go back and they contact Volturnus, and they say, help, we need help. We're under attack. We need reinforcements. We need backup. Help, help, help. Ursus Nox gets on the line and he says, I thank you for your sacrifice to the Empire. And what he does then is he unleashes a weapon that is codenamed Chimera. It essentially is a massive space cannon that rips through everything in its path, including all the soldiers, and everything else, all the ships, everything is completely obliterated. Aric and Thyra are right in the heart of the blast, but their armor manages to save them, but only barely. Thyra thinks, okay, this is really bad. He's unleashing a weapon that I thought he would never unleash because it's too dangerous. But Aric takes the optimistic viewpoint, and he says, well, if he's willing to unleash a weapon this bad and this big against us, Ursus Nox must be afraid. That's a good thing. That means he's desperate. Back on Volturnus, Ursus Nox visits the soothsayer and demands to know what's going to happen in the future. All she's willing to tell him is that Aric is on his way and he better look out. And it isn't long before that vision comes true, because as soon as she says those words, Pith's ship enters orbit and Aric and Thyra leap out to attack the heart of the city and come after Ursus Nox. And that's the issue, clean, straight, and to the point. So let's talk about the character work. Honestly, you don't get a lot of words, a lot of conversation. It's pretty much all show and don't tell, which is a strong positive. We want that. This is an action comic. That's what you want. But what you do get is a lot of Aric's personality coming through in this issue. His unflappable focus and his optimism in that even though he's attacking an entire empire single-handedly, you kind of almost buy into his belief that he may win. He may actually pull it off, which is no small feat. Thankfully, Clunan and Conrad, who are the writers, don't try to offset or even him out with Thyra and Pith being maybe overly pessimistic or trying to be Debbie Downers. They go along with it even though they're reluctant about it. So altogether, it's a kind of almost an optimistic and hopeful issue in the sense that these three people are attacking the entire empire, and you kind of believe that they can do it. Let's move over to the artwork. So we have a change up here. This art issue is drawn by Fernando Baldo, which is the first time we've ever encountered Baldo's work, and it looks pretty good. The figure work is solid. The action is well choreographed and energetic. The scenes and the backgrounds, generally speaking, look good. And we also have coloring by an organization called Busha Studio, whatever, if that's an individual or a group, I'm not quite sure, but the coloring also looks good. So all told, even though they're changing up the art team, very happy with the end result. We don't know why the art team changed from issue 1 to issue 2, but the quality didn't suffer one bit and maybe even gotten a little bit better. Let's move over to pacing and structure. Pacing is very good. It's brisk, enthusiastic, there's that word again, and engaging. You get the impression Aric is really almost enjoying the fight, not in a gleeful way, but he's happy to be a warrior, and he's sort of fulfilling his life's purpose. And you get a little bit of that tense, that I won't say tension there, but a little bit of that personality just sort of coming through his actions, and that enthusiasm carries the reader along, so it makes the reading experience go a little bit faster. So it's a good bit of character work there. So that's an interesting example of the character's personality buoying the pace, which is something you don't see too often. It's well done here. In terms of the plot structure, maybe a little simple. There's not a lot of complexity here. Aric flies off with his allies to do a lot of destruction. Eventually, he gets through the first layer of destruction, and then he heads to the Empire for more destruction. It's very simple plot. There's not a whole lot of depth or nuance here, but you know what? Sometimes simple is good enough, and that's what you get here. Moving over to the themes, and it seems to be the common theme from almost every comic that we're reviewing these days. It's a revenge quest. Aric's on a revenge quest to destroy the Romanist Empire because the Romans, which were enemies of the Visigoths when he was on Earth way back when. Pith is on a revenge quest for the destruction of the Vine, and Thyra is on a revenge quest because she was betrayed when she was part of the Romanist Empire. So everybody's got a reason for revenge. So you have the allies that are combined for a shared reason, revenge against the same common enemy. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. If you're looking at the cover of this comic, it clearly says on it, Road to Resurgence. Now, what is Resurgence? Resurgence is a big crossover event coming in September 2024. It's intended to bring all the Valiant heroes together for some world-ending scenario. Don't quite know the details as of yet, but the question becomes, where does this title fit into Resurgence? The answer is, it's too early. Nothing that we see so far is popping up here that says, here's foreshadowing or a tease of whatever Resurgence is going to be in September. So even though this eventually will dovetail into whatever Resurgence is, right now there are no hints of what that really looks like or suggestions of what Resurgence will wind up being. Final thoughts. What do we think about X-O Manowar Invictus number 2 from Valiant Entertainment? This was a perfectly good issue. The plot is decent enough. Aric is on basically a dogmatic attack course against Ursus Nox in the Romanist Empire. Action, pacing, and overall atmosphere are solid and entertaining, and the cliffhanger is also pretty solid. It's I won't say a wow moment, but strong enough that you're going to wonder what's going to happen next. Therefore, we're going to give Exo Manowar Invictus number 2 from Valiant Entertainment an 8.5 out of 10, which is great and a little bit surprising because we've not been too thrilled with the output of the Valiant comics of late, especially since the merger with Alien Books. They haven't been downright horrible, but maybe not the best quality. This is standing out a little bit, which is a good thing. So let us know what you think. Are you a Valiant fan just in general? Give us a thumbs up. If you're an Exo Manowar fan in general, give us a thumbs up. And leave a comment down below with your hopes and dreams and aspirations for where Valiant takes this title next. I want to know what you think. So thank you very much for joining. And if you like reviews just like this one, please stay tuned through the outro.